Hello everyone, it's Shel C from PaperOcotilloStudio. Today I'm sharing with you 3 new stencils I received from Stencilclub, which is a Stencilgirl program, a monthly club. And these are the December stencils. I was asked to create art with these stencils early so that people could see what they might do with them. So these were designed by Valerie Jodin. It's Sjodin. I'm not sure how to pronounce it. Sorry, Valerie, if you see this. I don't know how to say your name. But the stencils are really cute. They're like buildings, like city buildings, or they could be even something like Victorian, a little bit houses, things like that. And the 3 stencils coordinate really well together and are kind of interchangeable. You could take one part and put it on a different one, or then the smaller stencils you could substitute those in for other parts of the bigger ones so that you could make a variety of these buildings by just mixing and matching the 3 stencils. There's a 9x12 stencil, a 6x6 stencil, and a 4x4 stencil. This is what you receive every month for Stencilclub. You receive those 3 sizes, and it's $25 to belong to the club. And then there's also a special YouTube group that you get exclusive content from the artists who create the stencils. They have videos that you can watch, and you can only watch those if you're in the club. So you can also only get these stencils if you're in the club. So I thought that it would be fun. I was kind of thinking about that one neighborhood in Cape Town, South Africa, that has the really bright colored houses, and I thought it would be kind of fun to try to do something like that. So I got out my 12x12 gel plate and then my 6x6 gel plate to use as kind of a palette, and also to maybe use with the 6x6 and 4x4 stencils. And I put down a layer of black paint to begin with, laid the stencil down, and then I used a piece of deli paper to pull up the black from the inside of the stencil, to take that part out and fill it in with different colors. So then I went ahead and went over it with some white. I like to have like this little white halo, so I'll try to really remove all the black and then go over it again with white and remove the white, and it gives kind of this, I don't know, fills it in a little bit. So then I use some sponges with these different Dina bright colors, and I filled in the stencil in certain areas, being, conscious of where I was putting the colors. So that was pretty fun. When I pull the stencil off, this is what it looks like, and I need to let that dry. The Dina paint actually stays fairly workable uh, in my desert climate. So I'm just giving it a little bit of time to dry while I work on the 6x6. So I cleaned that one off. I put some black paint on it. I put the 6x6 stencil on there, which has a roof of a house, and then it also has a moon and stars and a little uh, iron light post type thing. So I've got that one ready over there to put colors on. Then I am taking some white paint now, and I put that over the dried paint on the 12x12. Put my paper over it. That's just regular paper. It's like from the printer. It's just regular thin copy paper, or whatever you want to call it. So now I'm putting some bright colors on the smaller stencil. Remember, it's got black underneath that's been pulled out, and then I'm putting the colors in the spaces using the same Dina paints. And meanwhile, that on the other side, that paint and paper are getting all very well integrated, so I can pull a clean print. So now that one's ready to be pulled up next, but first I'm going to peel this other one off. I think. Yes, I am. So that pulled up all the paint that was layered on the stencil, and I get these colorful houses with a dark background, which I think are pretty cool. So I I noticed that some of the black paint was still left on the plate, and I thought maybe I could get a ghost print with it. It turns out that it actually stained. The paint that I used is a DecoArt, just their inexpensive paint that I got recently, and it stained the plate a little bit. Doesn't matter. It doesn't affect anything. But I thought I could pull it up maybe and have like this interesting ghosty print, but it didn't really come up. Just a little bit, but very ghostly. So then I've got my 6x6 done. I'm pulling that one up. There's my colorful 6x6s. And then I am also going to do the 4x4 as well in the same process. Black paint, put the stencil down, pull up the black paint through the stencil design, put some white paint on, pull that up, and then also, actually, I think I forgot the white layer on this one. I did. But anyway, you see what I was doing. It's a technique that I came up with a while ago to make, I call it black and bright, and I make bright prints with black around them using stencils. So it's pretty cool. And this little section, this little 4x4, perfectly fits if you want to take a different section out from one of the bigger ones and put it in instead to change up what your finished houses look like. That's kind of all these little 4-inch sections that you could just take apart and stack them any way that you want. I thought that was pretty cool. It was a pretty cool way to design a stencil. So here's all the prints that I made. I started out with some blue ones and then ended up making some black ones. So now I'm going to make something out of these prints. The black ones. I didn't use the blue ones, but I did use the fill-in black one and the ones with the black backgrounds. So this is a 12 by 12 canvas. It's an inexpensive one. And I've cut out my little houses that were on the 9 by 12. And then now I'm cutting out, that's the 4 by 4. Then I had that other one that was actually the black pull up through the stencil part that I did over some other blue stuff, and I have that one I cut out. And then I'm cutting out the little rooftop that has the clock from the 6x6 stencil right now. I also have a couple, I have a moon and stars, and I have a couple of the light posts. I didn't do an extensive amount of printing here. This was just like maybe, at the most 30 minutes. And I have enough pieces and parts to do a couple different projects. So there's the deli paper ones where I pulled the black through the stencil, and I thought that they kind of filled in the background to make the canvas seem more full than if I just put the 3 buildings across the front. So I'm going ahead, and I thought to myself that these would blend into the black background because it's deli paper. It would the black would show more through the white, but that actually didn't happen. So you'll see what I did with that later. I'm being very careful to make sure there's no bubbles, no wrinkles. I'm using Liquitex matte gel medium to apply these to my canvas, and I'm using my glue brush to press everything down, and then I also have an old gift card that I'm using as well to make sure that everything is pressed down. If your paper isn't cooperating, sometimes you can mist it, and that helps with your ability to get the bubbles out. So now I have my other pieces, my colorful pieces, and they're going to go in the foreground. So here is the one that I was planning on putting in the middle. Now, I maybe should have done something like measuring with, a ruler to make sure that that one was in the middle. It's not quite in the middle. You can see it from up here, but from where I was on my desk, it looked perfectly in the middle, and I thought it looked perfectly fine, but it ended up not being in the middle. But that's okay. It just messed with my composition a little bit. So then I put the pink one on the right-hand side, and yeah, same process. I misted the back of the paper a little bit, put some Liquid Chex Matte Gel Medium on there in a thin layer. Then I put some on my canvas where that is going to go, and then I put it on and smooth it out with my brush as well as a card. So there's my little moon that I cut out from the 6x6. And then I have these other pieces that are, there's 3 different pieces to make up my other house. And this is where I realize that the center one was not in the middle. Yeah, because now this doesn't fit. When I first put it on there, it all fit 3 across, and now it doesn't, but I don't really care. It turned out fine. So I start with the middle one to make sure that everything is real straight, and I keep fussing with it a little bit to make sure that it's straight. Then I put on my bottom one, and I'm like using the roller to kind of make sure that all those lines are parallel, because now this isn't just one piece, it's 3 different pieces. And I decided to bring the roof down a little bit, so I take out one section of that 4x4 and just cover it up with the other one. So, and I put on my light post, which makes this now look like it's a city. And that was what I was going for, a city at night. And then I decided to put the other light post on as well that I had because of the balance issue that I had. I thought I needed something on the right to kind of balance everything out because of my buildings being not exactly lined up perfectly. So then I have some opaque white paint, and I add some stars using the 6x6 stencil from the set. Opaque white paint is like really goes well over that black. Just one coat. I don't have to go crazy with it. So once that's all done, then I need to leave this out to dry for a while. So I let it dry for a couple hours. And then now I'm going to address that issue with those buildings in the back being too bright. I thought they show up too much. I thought that the white should have been, it should have dulled down when I put it over the black paint, I thought, but it didn't. So what I'm doing is I'm using some glazing medium and some black paint and mixing it, just a little bit of black into the glazing medium, which then makes it like kind of a translucent color. And I'm going over those white section buildings there with that to calm them down and push them to the back. And this works really well. I think it looks a lot better, having them more kind of grayed out than as white as they were, because they were shining too much and showing up too much when I want the 3 colorful buildings to show up. These buildings are actually very colorful. It's the video just doesn't show how bright they are, but there will be photographs and close-up photographs at the end of the video where you can see how bright that the paint is and how much it contrasts with the black background. Even the black doesn't look black. Even at the very beginning when I was showing the stencils on the black paper, that's black paper, but it looked gray. So I think I need to adjust my camera settings. Maybe the light is flooding too much. I don't know. Anyway, I might need some of those light diffusers, because when black doesn't look black, you wonder what's going on. I mean, I want everything to be bright enough, but yet I don't, you know what I'm saying. Just technical difficulties in the life of a video maker. So now I started with my white Posca pen, and I used my metal ruler to kind of outline the buildings. I just liked it. I like illustration lines. It's just a thing. And so I started with that, thinking I would just outline my buildings, but then I decided I wanted to outline a lot of other stuff. So I got the stencil back out and put it over my design, and then I'm taking my white fine tip Posca pen, which is a paint pen, and just kind of going around a lot of the shapes and it just makes them stand out more. It makes those buildings in the front look a lot cooler, I think, having those white outlines. Some people won't like that style. It's kind of it's a style choice. See the difference though. See the difference between that one on the right and all the rest of them. So then, of course, I had to go do all the rest of them. And that it took me a minute to you know draw all those lines in, and then of course this one on the left hand side has the 4x4 and the 6x6 stencils. So I needed to do the same process with those. Drawing the lines on the outsides with my straight edge ruler, and then going in and drawing some of it by hand and then a lot of it by tracing around the stencil, which makes it a lot easier. Of course, if you draw the lines by hand, it looks a little bit more artsy because your own hand does something different than going around a stencil. So I'm enjoying making this little canvas. It ends up actually being a Christmas canvas. It is December, and after I got all my white lines put in everywhere, I thought to myself, you know what? It should be Christmas in the city. And so I ended up hand drawing a lot of details at the end, which is coming up. I also tried the stencil with some other papers and paints, and perhaps you will see that those projects used later in the month or maybe in January. I just haven't had a chance to edit. So here's where I start adding in Christmassy details to my buildings. I make a wreath on a door, and I make a tree in the window, and I make some Christmas lights hanging on the buildings. I'm kind of imagining that these might be apartments, maybe in the city. Maybe the bottom one someone lives in, and someone lives in the middle, and someone lives at the top. So, they would all decorate differently. And so I'm putting Christmas lights in the windows. I figure this one on the left has a shop at the bottom, and then someone lives above it. And then there's a clock tower at the top. So I don't know. When I do this type of project, I think to myself stories of what's going on. I don't know if you guys do this, but I think about the people who might live inside. I think about, what they're doing and how they're celebrating Christmas. It just oftentimes when I'm doing art, I'm thinking a story about something that I'm doing. And I don't usually tell you guys the stories. Sometimes I do, but sometimes the stories are really weird. But you guys wouldn't guess that, right? Not about Shel. She's not weird. So I'm just adding the little details. These are all Posca pins, fine tip Posca pins. They come all in a set together. And you get a white and black in there too. So if you haven't ever invested in Posca pins, these might be a good choice. This little set of some bright colors, a white and a black in the fine tip. And I'll be sure to link all the products used in the video down below where it says see more. There'll be links for you. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I had fun doing November and December Stencil Club voices. I hope that I'll one day be asked to do it again because it's fun to get the stencils early and get to see what they are and get to make art with them. So it's an exciting thing to do. Be sure you give this a thumbs up. Leave me a comment or question below if you have one. Subscribe if you haven't already. And you can turn on that little notification bell and it will tell you when a new fresh video is coming out. And also share this if you think this is a cute little Christmas in the City canvas. You can share it on your social media or pin it on Pinterest. So I'm just about done with my canvas and my details. I do make some red bows tied around the light posts like you would see at Christmas. But that is it for me. Thanks. Bye-bye.